I think we can all admit that the single biggest collective anxiety right now is just staring at the acceleration of AI and wondering, is my job
It's
next?
a huge wave.
It's
Absolutely.
this massive wave of disruption, and it feels incredibly easy to get paralyzed by the fear of what we're going to lose. But what if we just flipped that narrative?
Okay.
What if we focused not on what automation will take away, but on the kind of work that remains, fundamentally human? The irreplaceable core of value that only we can provide.
That shift in focus, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Moving from panic to positioning. That's the whole mission of this deep dive for you. We're unpacking what we're calling the still human framework.
The still human framework, I like that.
It's essentially a roadmap. It's rooted in David Shapiro's work and then expanded into 16 categories by Coach Lisa Bowen. And the goal isn't just to tell you what jobs are safe. It's to give you a clear structural understanding of why they're resilient.
So you can find work that's not just stable, but actually meaningful.
I love that idea, moving from anxiety to, like, a position of strength.
Okay, so let's unpack the foundation first. David Shapiro's original idea.
Right.
He didn't frame it by job title. He framed it by human function. He saw four core types of work: judgment, emotional connection, creativity, and physical or embodied labor.
Exactly. And those four functions, they were pretty quickly refined into five, let's call them still human employment
And
niches.
edges, okay.
And these are about specific skills like, coding or something. They're about the relationship between the worker and the consequences of their actions.
So if we use those five niches as our starting point, our mental model, where do we begin? First up, you have the high liability jobs. These are roles where a human, a person, must be personally and legally accountable for what happens.
Right. Think surgeons.
Surgeons, air traffic controllers, the commander of a naval ship. AI can help, but the buck absolutely stops with a person.
Yeah.
Second, the statutory positions. These are jobs that legally have to be done by a licensed human.
The law is the firewall.
It is. Doctors diagnosing patients, licensed CPAs signing off on financials, a clinical therapist.
Hmm.
Third, the experience economy roles. This is where the live presence, the unique personality, that's the whole point.
You're paying for the human interaction itself.
Exactly. A famous chef's cooking class, a museum guide, live music.
Right.
Fourth, meaning-making and authenticity work. So these are roles that guide people through deep human transitions like identity, grief, spiritual questions.
Clergy, executive coaches, grief counselors, that kind of
Yeah.
work.
And then finally, fifth, relationship-based, trust-heavy roles. So here, persuasion, rapport, diplomacy. That's the core value.
High-stakes negotiators, diplomats, maybe senior B2B salespeople who've built trust over decades.
So what's the thread connecting all five of those?
Well, the connecting mechanism is crucial. These jobs survive not just because they're complex, but because they inherently rely on human judgment, lived experience, emotional presence, and ethical accountability. AI can process inputs, sure, but it can't socially or legally assume the responsibility of the person behind that final nuanced decision.
That's a powerful distinction, the social and ethical assumption of responsibility. But I have to ask, for those first two, high liability and statutory, isn't that resilience just temporary?
That's a really good question.
I mean, couldn't the government or insurance companies just shift the definition over time?
It's a critical question. And the resilience, it's not guaranteed forever, no, but it is deeply embedded in social trust. The sources point out that, while an AI might get better diagnostic accuracy than a doctor, society is fundamentally reluctant to let an algorithm be sued for malpractice or send someone to prison. We still need transparency, justification, and maybe even human remorse. That's a necessary social guardrail.
And that social contract takes decades, maybe even generations to change. Okay, fair point. That gives us a really solid foundation. Now, this is where we take the deep dive. Coach Lisa Bowen took those five niches and expanded them into a roadmap of 16 categories.
Yeah, and this is where it gets much more granular and I think much more useful for people. We're going to organize them into three major thematic clusters to make them easier to digest.
Perfect.
So let's start with the first group, which really solidifies that idea of accountability. We call this the accountability and systems group.
So this is all about roles that require that irreversible, consequential human judgment, right?
Precisely. This cluster includes high liability roles, statutory and licensed professions, and then adds government and civic participation roles. The resilience here comes from the demand that a human bears the risk for moral, legal, or life-altering outcomes.
Okay, so give us some examples beyond the obvious doctor or judge.
Well, look at the role of a fiduciary. Even if an algorithm could predict the market perfectly, trust in personal financial stewardship is deeply, deeply human.
You need someone you can look in the eye.
You do. You need a human whose ethics you can verify to manage your wealth. A machine can't advise you based on your personal values, only your inputs. Or think about a policy analyst. They don't just process data. They weigh competing human interests, navigate politics, and craft the story for legislation.
So the human story behind the decision is just as important as the outcome.
Absolutely. The machine gives an answer, but a human has to give you the meaning and the justification for that answer.
Okay, so what's the second big cluster?
The second group shifts from the legal world into the physical world we actually inhabit. We call it the embodied and relational group.
This one feels really broad. It covers everything from skilled trades to emotional support.
It is expansive because it covers fields where presence, touch, improvisation, and just messy real-world adaptation are key. This is where AI really struggles.
The unstructured reality of the world.
Exactly. The physical world and the unpredictable emotional world. We're talking about direct experience services, expressive and embodied aesthetic work, caregiving, energetic and intuitive work, and the manual, skilled and repair trades.
That is a fascinating mix. Let's dig into a few. Why is the plumber future-proof?
The plumber is the perfect example of resilience in the physical world. A robot might calculate flow rates, sure, but it can't navigate the cramped, wet, non-standard space under your sink.
Or improvise a fix on pipes from the 1950s.
Right. Or detect the subtle smell of a gas leak. Robotics excel in predictable, factory settings, not in the chaos of human homes.
So if your job requires adapting to messy reality on the fly, you've got resilience.
Precisely. Now apply that same logic to the emotion side. Think about caregiving. A hospice nurse or a physical therapist that requires profound emotional attunement, hands-on feedback, spontaneous compassion. That's something only human presence can deliver.
And what about things like a sommelier or a tattoo artist? They almost seem like luxuries.
Well, that's why the concept is called human-preferred services. These roles offer an experience rooted in connection and aesthetic skill. A machine can suggest a wine pairing,
But it can't read the table's mood.
or tell a great story about the vineyard, or notice a subtle, nonverbal cue. And the tattoo artist is incredibly resilient because the work is about identity, trust in the artist's hand, and the vulnerability of body modification. As life gets more digital, these genuine physical interactions become more valuable.
That makes a lot of sense. So that anchors the second group. The final cluster then focuses on the highest level of cognitive work, the insight, influence, and frontier group.
It is. This is the most dynamic area. It's defined by nonlinear thinking, ethical guidance, cultural nuance, and operating at the edge of what we know.
Okay, so what does that include?
This includes education and human mentorship, entertainment, humor and storytelling, attention work, sales and influence, and then the brand new fields like human AI collaboration and emerging and frontier industries.
The difference between just processing information and providing actual insight seems key here. What exactly is attention work?
This is a crucial concept for right now. In an age of information overload, attention work means discerning what truly matters. It's cutting through the noise.
So a talent scout or a recruiter?
Exactly. Or an investment analyst. Their job isn't to summarize data. AI can do that. Their job is deep noticing, seeing the non-obvious pattern that everyone else missed. It's about framing the right question before the data is even processed.
And how does that connect to a role like a stand-up comedian?
The stand-up comedian is an amazing example of cultural nuance and real-time adaptation. Their work depends entirely on context, timing, vulnerability, shared experience. Humor is one of the most uniquely human things we do.
A machine can generate a joke, but it can't deliver it.
It can't deliver it. It can't adapt to a silent room or an unexpected heckle. And then, of course, you have these new frontier roles.
Which is where people probably feel the most uncertainty.
They do, but it's also where the biggest opportunities are. Think about an AI ethics consultant or a prompt engineer. These roles are about guiding the systems we build, making sure they align with human values, addressing bias.
Asking the big what-if questions that a system can't ask itself. It's about humanizing the technology.
Exactly.
So we have this clear three-part roadmap with 16 categories. That's step one for anyone looking to future-proof their career. But the source material also gets into the next crucial step. Why do so many smart mid-career professionals still get stuck?
Yes. The sources outline 3 core barriers, and they're powerful because they're less about skill and more about your mindset. They explain the psychological friction that stops people from moving forward.
Okay, what's the first one?
Barrier 1. They're stuck in an old career operating system. For decades, the system rewarded predictability, climbing the ladder. So people facing AI disruption try to solve it by doing more of what worked before.
Competing with the technology on speed or efficiency?
Right. Instead of meaning or unique insight, they're still optimizing for the old game, polishing their resume for a job title that might be half automated in 5 years.
That's a trap.
It is. The solution is to stop competing on the machine's terms. We saw that great example of a project manager who spent years just refining spreadsheets. Then she pivoted, not into coding, but into an AI implementation liaison role.
Ah, so her real value wasn't the spreadsheets themselves.
No, it was her human skills coordination, framing problems, communicating across teams. She moved upstream to where the human insight was missing.
That seems like the hardest one to overcome, psychologically. Letting go of what made you successful before. What's barrier 2?
Barrier 2. They cannot clearly articulate their human edge. People know they bring intuition, judgment, emotional intelligence, but on a resume or an interview, they use these generic, meaningless terms.
Team player. Excellent communicator.
Exactly. They struggle to translate their unique human qualities, the soft skills, into hard business value.
I see this all the time. They know their empathy is valuable, but they don't know how to sell empathy to a hiring manager.
And the fix is to translate those qualities into measurable outcomes like, employee retention, reducing conflict, building client trust. The sources had that great example of the web designer whose portfolio was all technical specs.
Okay.
She changed her description from "I build websites" to "I am a translator between data and emotion." She said she ensures the user experience builds trust and drives retention.
And I bet she started getting calls immediately.
Immediately, she articulated her still human value, that clarity in language equals perceived market value.
So what's the third barrier?
Barrier 3, they get paralyzed by options. Analysis paralysis, they mistake frantic activity like signing up for every random AI course for strategic progress.
That feeling of being overwhelmed is so common.
It is. The noise, the fear, it leads to burnout. The example was a communications director trying to master 5 different AI tools at once. He just burned himself out.
So what did he do?
He focused. He decided to specialize in human AI storytelling consulting. He used AI for the first draft, but his human expertise was on cultural fit, narrative structure, ethical accuracy. He cut his effort by 80% and became this highly sought-after specialist.
So you have to stop reacting to every headline and start positioning yourself with a roadmap.
Which brings us perfectly to the structured approach for this, the 4C pivot system.
Yes, the 4C system provides the framework to break through those barriers. It starts with C1, clarify.
Okay.
The whole goal here is to assess your personal risk and take inventory of your transferable skills. You replace that vague anxiety with concrete data. They use a tool, the career risk audit, to score your job's vulnerability, skill transferability, and how urgent it is for you to act.
So it turns fear into a metric. Then once you have clarity, you move to C2. Jeez.
Correct. And the goal here is alignment. You pick the most viable, future-proof path from those 16 categories. People use a tool like the AI Career Matrix to compare their top options based on market demand, the real AI risk, and critically, their personal excitement level. And it's not just about the options, right? It's about the mental roadblocks.
That's a huge part of C2. You have to confront them. There's a mapping process that forces you to ask, is this limitation a real external truth, or is it just my internal fear? You have to crush that second guessing before you commit.
That internal check is vital. Okay, then we get to execution with C3, commit.
This is where the rubber meets the road. You build a solid, executable plan, a 90-day pivot plan template, mapping out clear weekly milestones. And the focus is rigorously on actions you can control, like publishing a post or having a strategic coffee, not on uncontrollable outcomes, like getting a job offer.
And you customize that for people who are pivoting versus those who are staying and reinforcing their role.
Exactly.
And finally, the step that locks it all in. C4, confidence.
Confidence is the fuel. This part is all about mindset and long-term resilience. It involves using confidence scripts. For example, helping professionals who feel, I'm too old to retrain, to reframe that narrative.
So instead of a weakness, it becomes a strength.
It's a massive strength.
Yeah.
You learn to emphasize that experience, plus a demonstrated ability to evolve is a rare and powerful combination the market desperately needs right now.
Okay, so pulling this all together, the 16 categories, the 3 barriers, the 4C system, what does this all mean for the person listening right now who's maybe worried about their future?
It means the central philosophy is this. AI is replacing tasks, but it cannot automate you. You don't have to keep up with the machines. You just have to deepen your understanding of why you are still human.
The things AI can't replicate.
Deep listening, moral intuition, the complexity of humor, mentorship, resilience, these are just, secondary traits anymore. They are the core, essential skills the future needs and the market will pay a premium for. They're